Well, earlier this year, parents and children were alarmed at the news of an online trend. Warnings about the Momo challenge was sweeping across social media and urging parents to be more careful with the content that their kids were watching. People were reporting cases of YouTube Kids videos that had been spliced with inappropriate scenes and messages, and that kids had been receiving threats via platforms like WhatsApp. Since then, other sources have suggested that this was merely a hoax, but that parents should still monitor their children's viewing very carefully. Now, I know that when I was young, kids in my school were terrified of a similar threat called Bloody Mary, who would apparently show up in your mirror if you didn't follow her instructions. And I remember lots of my friends were very scared about this, but fortunately they told their parents, who were able to calm their fears. But with the pervasive threat of social media and phones in every child's hands these days, it's really important to keep those communication channels open with our children. And because of these concerns, we've brought in our resident psychologist, Colette Smart, to discuss how we can protect our kids from online threats. So Colette, do you mind just explaining what was the Momo challenge?
So just, if I can just add something quickly, this Momo character actually comes from Japanese art originally. Right. So it's actually a sculpture that someone in Japan created, and it's now been used as this character. Right. But what we're seeing, not just in this Momo challenge, the Momo challenge actually isn't new. It surfaced last year, middle of last year. We see other things like the blue whale challenge and so on. So really I want to talk about the broader issue here. We have children who are terrified of certain things that they see online because they're shown it at sleepovers, at camps. I've seen articles where people have been shown it at school camps.
Even on the bus, you know, you don't have say over your kids, and what older kids are showing them on the bus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's not enough of a link in terms of some of the research that we've looked at, that it is a direct cause of suicide, particularly this Momo challenge. However, I have to say anything that is a risk for young people, we need to take seriously. And I am concerned about children at risk. Children who are already anxious, who are already fearful. Vulnerable. Children who are vulnerable to suicidal thinking. These are the children that we need to look out for. But as parents, I think we often have this idea that it's other people's children. We never think my children might be at risk of being exposed to this. And so the things we've got to do is look at two areas. We look at relationship, our relationship with our children, and then what are we doing with technology with our children. So for me, the first thing is children are afraid that if they tell their parents something that they've seen or been shown, we are going to take their devices away. So rather than lose a device which is like their arm, they won't tell. And so we preempt that. I actually was talking to my youngest, my 11-year-old, in the car yesterday, just because I thought, you know what, we need to have this discussion again. It's not a one-off discussion. We don't have it once. We find lots of opportunities. And I said to him,
I think that's something we need to remember as parents, is that you can't just say something once, can you? I mean, I'm still saying to my 19-year-old things that I was saying to him, but probably more expanded now when he was 15, and I'm just broadening it out and adding more dialogue into it.
Shoni, you've hit the nail on the head in the sense that if we don't do it young, then our children aren't used to us doing that as they get older.
But I'm just wondering, the problem with these challenges, right, they're actually telling the kids not to tell their parents.
So this is where we say to our children, have you been shown something, or have you seen something that makes you uncomfortable, afraid, that's inappropriate, that I want you to know that you can always tell me. I'm not going to take your device away. If you tell me you have courage, that's brave. I'll be very proud of you. And sometimes there are people who tell you not to tell mommy and daddy. You always tell us. Then we do things like make sure our children know that they can speak to wider networks. Grandma, auntie, uncles, older siblings, much older siblings, adult siblings, that they can trust. Give them permission to talk to others. And then what are we doing with our children's devices? Are we aware of what they're looking at, what they're watching? YouTube is out for young children. YouTube is not a safe place for young children.
So what age should YouTube be?
YouTube is actually for much older teens. Some of the age ratings, depending on your country, is 17 plus.
Right.
So our children are seeing things spliced into videos.
I was just going to say that because this is actually one of the questions I had written down, because there are videos like with Peppa Pig, and as soon as the parents walk away, suddenly there are these, you know, oh, you should
Pop-ups and things.
commit suicide, things like this. It's really
Yes,
scary.
we're seeing them spliced into, you know, children's
Innocent.
cartoons.
Yeah, yeah.
And so technology out of bedrooms, in public spaces where you can be aware of what is your child watching, what are they doing. Sit and watch things with your child.
I think
Play
that's
with
the
your
tricky
child.
thing. So many people feel time poor, and that's their babysitter, that's their support in a way. And so, I mean, there's no question for it. We still have to monitor our kids and what they're watching, but I know that can be a real challenge for parents.
And look, I don't have a problem if you've got a little baby you're trying to feed or you're trying to cook and your child for a time is watching something. I'm okay with that. But be fully aware of what your child is watching. What have you put on? What game? Have you screened the game? Have you set up parental controls? Have you blocked inappropriate or adult content on their iPads, on their phones? It's being vigilant and checking up on that. I know sometimes it can feel exhausting, but that is our role. That's where we're at as parents. It's not a one-off check and think, oh, the device is safe. It's a continual conversation, continual checking and looking and making sure that you're aware of what your child's doing.
But I like what you said about how YouTube is out, because sometimes we use YouTube as well because for all the cartoons and stuff like that for my child to watch. But then now thinking about it, maybe we should go more towards like the mainstream channels and their catch-up TV.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's probably a little bit safer.
Things where we know we've actually screened and they kind of already have a boundary around them in that,
It
you know.
can't be spliced into.
Absolutely.
I think when you talked about awareness before, that is definitely the key there, and just, knowing what your child is watching.